better not.
hanging about, you know,
Yeah.
the second or film.
Okay, so if one was telling me about how the whole family originally came into Ireland's from
I better not contradict what you say.
so I wonder if you might give me your version of that. Of yeah, just history of the shop, because the shop's been in your family for
Oh gosh, about 80 plus years.
Can you switch up on our class? How long have you worked in the shop?
40 years.
Hello, Iris.
Hello, Leonard. How are you today? Oh, Leonard just comes in and we look anyway.
Yeah, okay, so just tell us a bit about the history of your family.
Yeah, well, the shop belonged to my granduncle, who, when he came out of the First World War, he opened the shop as a shoemaker's, and then it revolved around groceries, blah blah, and my mother left school at 14 to help him in the shop, and she also did a van round for him, and because she was so young she couldn't drive, so strangely enough my uncle on my father's side used to drive the van and my mum used to do the serving, and it went on, it rotated from there, and when my uncle died in 1959 my mother took over the shop herself in her own rights, and my father unfortunately had to retire early, so he came into the business with it, and a few years later they took me in as a partner. So I'm the surviving partner in the business since a long number of years now.
So way back, was there two shops in Ireland?
Yes, there was. Where Mackay's Rooms and Restaurants are, the end bit was Richard Mackay and Sons. That was their shop. And about 20 years ago they opened the supermarket up the hill. But I'm still here with no intentions of opening a supermarket.
So are you big rivals or are you good friends?
No, not really, no. We just, they have their customers and I have mine, and they go from shop to shop, you know. They've got the post office and fuel and that, which I don't no longer have. But no, we're not really rivals. Up to a point maybe, but not really. We're just both struggling for survival in the winter and going mad in the summertime with visitors. But there's room for the two of us, no question about it, and we're open when they're closed and they're open when we're closed, so we still have the same number of open hours in the day. But I don't open early in the morning because we do the school runs for the village school, and by the time you come back and have your breakfast and so on, it's a bit later before we open. Then we open at night time, and they're closed at night.
How did it move from being shoes to
Well, well, my mother couldn't do shoemaking for a start. So my uncle would have stopped shoemaking about 1955, thereabouts. And then we, you know, once he finished doing shoemaking, we just sort of dwelt on groceries and sweets and whatever items local people required.
So referred to as the shop
Yes, very similar. Because if you start altering the building, I would reckon most of it would collapse. It's so old. Because it was actually a shop before my uncle took over it. It was called Gall's. So I don't know how many years before my uncle took it over that it was actually a shop. Not granduncle, but uncle.
Was it village about the same size?
Very much so, because it's only in the later years that the council houses have been built, and before that there were no council houses, so a lot of the ruined houses that you see now were occupied in the earlier days. But I say there's quite a number. I don't know how many council houses are in it now. 12, 15, 16.
24 or something.
There'll probably be about 30 with Alvin as well.
Oh, that did not council.
But a lot of houses with one person in it now to what was in it even when I started working in the shop. There's a boy along the village there, and we used to count how many people were in this section of Dernis alone. And as I say, now it's one person that's nearly every house.
That's what I found.
Yes, there's big families. And there were more people employed on the farms and that in the earlier days. I mean, now it's, well, Kyoto Farm, there's only 3, and I think it's 3 on Balnakeil Farm. And then there was a lot of people went to the fishing as well. But
So
even,
fishing was not big.
oh yes, there was a lot of lobster and crab boats in it in my younger days. But things change, you know, as I say, they can take even this section of the village, and there's not many people in it, just one in each house, whereas there'd be 6 or 7 in most of the houses. They all died off, or the younger people have moved away. A lot of Dernis people south. Yeah.
It's not so much as
There's nothing to keep them really, and you know, if they go to college, university and train for something, they can't find that occupation in Dernis. So we're needing lots of young children, young couples with families, because our school roll is dropping as well.
Still to call about the system with the crofting system. It sounds like it's a few. Is that crofting?
Yes, there was a lot of crofting
Out
then.
on the land and
Yeah,
into,
there's not much in crofting now either. It tends to be one person has maybe 10 crofts, whereas before one household had one croft and then they used the hill ground. But once the crofting sort of declined, they sublet their crofts to other people.
so these original people who owned these 10 crofts there.
Yeah, well, they're the tenants.
Passed down from generations.
Yes, yes, But now they sublet to maybe their next door neighbour or to a friend somewhere. But not many people concentrate on crofting as such. Even again, this section of the village, there's only 3 or 4 are actual crofters in their own rights, and the rest of the crofts are sublet to somebody else.
So is it quite hard for young people to buy a place or
Yeah, well, you can't actually sell a croft unless you've bought it in the first place. If you're a tenant of a croft, then you inherit your tenancy. Crofting laws. Yes, oh yes, for generations. Like my brother, he's got the old Mather family home, and the croft goes with it, and he's got my mum's family home, and there's a croft goes with that, and then he has sublets from the neighbouring crofts. And he still holds a few sheep, and he plants his own potatoes and vegetables, and sows corn, and that sort of thing. There's not many does that now.
So what happens if the last of the line, the last person dies?
Well, it goes back to the estate, you see, and they would have to find a suitable tenant then.
The estate is in this area.
Pardon?
The estate in this area is.
Yes, the estate it's owned by a company in Liechtenstein, and there's a factory in Dunkeld that oversees things. But I think this is where your Crofters Commission.
System from way back.
Oh yes. We've had 2 or 3 changes of proprietors over the years. This factor seems to be all right. I've had no problems with it. Maybe some people had, but I never had any. It's not very good at replying to letters, but then nor am I.
There are always big companies away from.
Oh yes, yeah. But, in our early days, it was owned by the Buxton family from Yeovil in Somerset. And then he sold it on to a fellow, Mr. Robinson. He was nice, but he since died. And then there's been a variety of, I may as well say, foreign people have owned the estate.
estate is how many crafts or several crafts?
Oh, I don't know how many crofts will be in it. I know the Kjodel farm is owned by the Department of Agriculture, and there's about 40 odd shareholders. And most of that shareholders are crofters in their own rights. Some of them are no longer crofters in the area, but they've inherited their share of the Kjodel farm from the department.
So what are the biggest changes that you've seen while you've been
Again, the population, I think, is one of the biggest changes. Where in our early days in the shop there was households with big families, and nowadays everybody has a car and they like to go into town to do a big shopping, and it's only the bits and pieces they have to buy from the local shops, because we know our prices are quite ridiculous by comparison to Tesco's, Morrison's, the bigger supermarkets. But having said that, we're so far away that you probably find it wheels and roundabouts, because you've got to put, say, £20 of petrol in your car to get to Ullapool, Thurso or Inverness, as the case may be. And if you add that £20 on to your groceries for a fortnight, you may not have saved very much at all. But if you're going into town, maybe for shoes, or you're needing wallpaper or curtains or a new coat, well, you do all those things in a one trip to Inverness or whatever. Well, Inverness probably is your better bet, because you've got variety when you go into town. But that is the biggest change, because in my early days in the shop, very few people went. Inverness was a big thing to go away to Inverness for the day. And the roads, although they're not all that great, roads south have improved.
So you now drive the bus to Inverness?
Yes. Yes,
So what's
But-
is it
Yeah, well, we have quite good loads each time. Although it's a 16-seater, I like to restrict it to maybe about 12, so there's room for shopping as well. But people don't really do a grocery shopping. Maybe that's because it's me that's usually driving. I don't usually, can't think that Rhiannon would go grocery shopping to Inverness. But the young ones go for their CDs and their designer clothing, etc. But we don't really have customers that go grocery shopping. Maybe a few bits and pieces from Marks and Spencer's that you couldn't buy here anyway. But George goes shopping to Inverness, and it's CDs and trainers and rings. Come on, George, you're bound to have something you want to ask me. And don't ask if I'm rich, because I'm not. I'm only making the taxman rich.
Do you work in the shop yourself for the rest of the
I have no doubt I will. So if you come in one day and I'm in a heap at the back of the counter, you'll say, that's it.
You've got somebody in mind to pass it on to?
Well, I have Yvonne, but I don't know how interested she is. But again, I don't think she would like to see it closed either, so if she got good workers, she would probably keep it going.
How many children do you
One
have?
One of Yvonne is quite enough, thank you.
Yes.
Don't leave that on the DVD, cut that bit out.
So do you come from big families?
No, 3 of us, brother and sister. And there was 4 in my mother's family and 5 in my father's family. 5 boys, and only 2 of them married with a family. Well, 3 of them married, but 1 of them had no family.
Then I understand that your brother still fishes in the
Yes, and he drives the high school bus to Kilnaferry as well, so that keeps him either occupied or sane or whatever. Because he was a bus driver, my father was a bus driver all his working life, and then my brother took over from him, and I think my father was 37 years driving from Verness to Lairg, and Michael would have been about 34 years driving from Verness to Lairg, so it's a long time. So,
So what
as,
else?
as he's still, pardon?
Your father did all, doesn't he?
Yes, yes,
So this is Mr. Hopper.
They were, well, both Michael and my father were working for the Sutherland Transport. Well, my father actually started with my granduncle that had the shop, and he was doing from here to Laxford. And then when the contract was taken over by the Sutherland Transport, my father left and went to Fort William, to the Hydro scheme there, and he was only there about 6 months when the Sutherland Transport called him back to drive the bus from Ernest to Lairg, so he came home then. But presumably I wasn't even in it then.
So the buses started running then?
Oh, well, my father would have been doing it in the early 30s, and then possibly about 36, 37, he came back to drive for the Southern Transport.
But now there's no regular bus, it's just the
Yeah, well, the
summer
post bus now does it. There's a post bus to Lerg every day. In my father and Michael's time, it was 6 days a week, and that was it. Not even Christmas Day or New Year's Day holiday. But, that's enough. That's enough.